Baby boomers had way easier lives than Gen Z kids do. With a median income of $21,000, a median house price of around $47,000, and median rent around $250, everything was way more affordable. If we take the house price and divide it by the average income, the ratio we get is about 2.245. And the percentage of income that would go to rent if you decided to rent instead of buy a house is about 14%. What is it like today? The answer is ridiculously worse. The median income in 2023 was around $80,000. The median house price is $426,000, with the median rental price being even more scary at around $1,987. If we do those same ratios that we did for 1980 again, we can see that the house price to income ratio is 5.285. This is literally more than double what that ratio used to be in 1980. And the rent ratio is even more terrifying. It is 30% of your income. 30% of your income will go to just rent. Again, more than double what it used to be in 1980. And if you thought that was all, there are so many other things that make life way harder for Gen Z kids than for baby boomers. The cost of shelter is already insanely high, but add on top of that how much worse student debt is as well. The average cost to attend a public college was around $8,271 in 1980. If we take the price of attending a public college and divide it by the total average income, we get a ratio of around 39%. Guess what the ratio is in 2023? 48%. And you might be saying, well, people in the 80s just worked harder. They worked longer hours and they had better work ethic than kids nowadays do, which is why they were paid more fairly. The thing is, the hours worked are not that different at all. The average hours worked weekly was around 40 hours a week in the 80s, and now it's about 36.4 hours. Those 4 hours are not making up for the incredible difference between the 1980s and 2020s in terms of how expensive it is to live. And a lot of these changes are incredibly recent. If we look at the year 2000, I'm gonna pop up all the stats around that time. Even the 2000s were way easier than it is right now. In just a short span of about 20 years, things have gotten so much worse. So tell me again, how are Gen Z kids entitled and lazy? Boomers online love to talk about how Gen Z is just lazy and they need to spend better. But the reality is that boomers had the easiest lives out of many of the generations that followed. How is someone in the 2020s with a normal job out of college going to ever be able to afford a house? When 30% of your income is going to literally just rent, and you have to pay off student debt because more and more jobs require a college degree, and cost of living is slowly going up over time as well. Any money that you save won't even matter, because the housing market too has been on such an insane incline that even if you save some money, the problem is that houses around you will increase in price faster than you can save money. There's a constant portrayal of Gen Z in the media that we are just lazy, entitled people who want 10-hour work weeks and want everything to be handed to us on a silver platter. But the thing is, that is a very small percentage of children who are in Gen Z. Believe it or not, the 20 or so outrageous kids that you see on TikTok or on Facebook do not make up an entire generation of people who are working harder than anyone else and getting none of the results that they deserve from their hard work. This disillusionment hit me personally when I graduated college debt-free with $30,000 saved up, with a 6-figure job and a 4.0 GPA. And despite all of that, I realized I would still have to wait nearly a year before I could even begin to think about purchasing a 500 square foot condo. What is the point of working ourselves to death when none of that work results in any kind of meaningful progress or reward in our lives? When we see entry-level offers of $50,000, we don't decline them because we're entitled and we think we deserve more. We decline them because we know that $50,000 a year is not something you can sustainably live off anymore if you have any kind of dreams of financial freedom or owning a home, so on and so forth. There's a certain point where $2,000 on rent a month is ridiculous. And people in their 30s still living with roommates because they can't afford their own house is not a reality that baby boomers ever had to face. We need to stop blaming phones and social media and entitlement. That is not what has made the majority of Gen Z so disillusioned with work. We're disillusioned because we realize that it doesn't matter how much work we put in. If we're going to be poor and not be able to afford anything, we might as well do the bare minimum at our job, as is the case with the quiet quitting movement. We might as well leave our jobs and find other places that pay us better, as in the case of the Great Resignation. Loyalty to a company is not something that gets you forward anymore, with constant layoffs happening and people losing their jobs left and right. Many people view job hopping as something shameful, but why sell your soul to a company who does not care about you and will remove you at any moment, and who is barely paying you enough to just live and get by, let alone achieve your dreams and do something meaningful with your life? But the thing is, it's not all doom and gloom. The reality is we're in this situation, but we can make the most of it. And if you're a parent of a child who is in Gen Z, here's what you can do to actually help your kid. Number one, stop shaming kids of our generation for being entitled and spoiled. Yes, there are likely some kids who are entitled and spoiled, but the thing is, every single generation before us has had those children as well. Being entitled or being spoiled is not something unique to Gen Z. It is something that will always happen no matter what in the human race. If we stop shaming Gen Z kids for not working hard enough when they're constantly burnt out and stressed and not receiving any of the rewards for all the effort they're putting in, that isn't going to make things better or easier for anyone. So the number one thing you can do is first, stop shaming your children if they are in that Gen Z crowd. Try and actually understand what their struggles are, understand why it is so difficult for them, and understand why they're growing so disillusioned. Another big thing we can do is stop blaming phones and technology for the rise of frustration and resentment in the Gen Z population. We're binge watching TV and drinking all the time, and that's not what's causing us to be frustrated and disillusioned. We're turning to things like TV and addiction over and over because of how frustrating and disillusioned we are with our lives. If stuff was as easy as it was in the 1980s, the insane rise in mental illness would not be prevalent. We are not kids who want to overdiagnose ourselves and come up with every single excuse in the book to not do hard work. The vast majority of Gen Z is filled with kids who want to work hard, push themselves, and do better every single day. But the problem is that's not enough for a lot of people. Unless you choose a very specific career path, it's unlikely that you'll ever be able to achieve financial freedom and do the things that you want to. The better that we can understand Gen Z's struggles and actually sympathize with them and relate to them instead of just labeling them as people who are entitled or spoiled who don't want to work hard, the better that their outcomes will be. It'll make it a lot easier to make these difficult sacrifices over a long period of time. It's hard when you come back from a draining day at work to start working on your side hustle as well because your main job doesn't give you enough money, only to go online and be told that you are just entitled and spoiled. And this is how hard everyone always had to work, because that's not the case. Before this point in time, people had it way easier when it came to achieving their financial dreams. Hopefully with this video, we can shed some light on how difficult it really is, and with that, increase sympathy and increase support for the generation that needs it the most. Because even if times are tough, we can still achieve our dreams, but we need the proper emotional support to get there. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching, and take care.